Hello and welcome to the stream. We are back here on our Yellow Pine Cities map, and in this live stream we're going to focus on building out the waterfront. We have a lot of this space that we have yet to build out, and I think that would help cap off this part of our town. So we have plenty of space that we can build. We get a little bit close to the river here, and then we also should probably do something about our sewage outlet that we have just dumping into the river here. So I think we'll tackle that. We have plenty of money saved up for us to test out some different things. In the last stream, we focused on this high school area, and we got that all built up and good to go. And then we also put in this park, which if we have time to, I'd like to maybe finish this thought and fill in these empty spaces as well. And then another issue that we should probably tackle sooner than later is getting some public transportation up and running. We should get some buses going, since we do have plenty of space for demand to start building up across town. We have some traffic buildup, as we can see along Elm Street here. So especially as we build out this waterfront area, we could get a bus line that runs up and down Elm Street, and then maybe a few others that reach farther into our lower density residential and maybe connects to the school or our other main strip. And so I think with that, we can begin building this out, or at least planning it. So first I want to take a look at our water facilities and see if we have something we can use for sewage that isn't just dumping it into the water. And we do have just like a water treatment plant. We can probably just put this somewhere in our industrial area right now. We're currently not using this for too much, so I would like to organize this industrial area a bit further. I don't like that we're just kind of building this out as a grid. We kind of just have a bunch of random city services thrown in here. So I think much farther on down the line, especially as we figure out this connection between the highway coming through here, once we get around to that, we can probably focus on reorganizing this industrial area as well. But we have our water treatment plant in. I think we'll just extend the road a tiny bit, just so that we get that visual connection to this side street. And then that should allow us to delete this sewage outlet. And we might have to delete the sewage pipe that's coming out to it. So we'll cut that back to the highway. Just like so. And then let's check our infographics and make sure we have enough sewage treatment capacity, and we have way more than enough now. We shouldn't need to touch that for a long while. And so now we can really focus on building out the waterfront area. I think maybe purchasing a few more tiles could help us a little bit. I think we get those 3. That should be good enough for now. We don't want to overspend on tiles, but that allows us to clean up a bit of this coastline, as it seems the water is coming a bit more inland than we want it to. We can just set our target and fix this a little bit. So we'll just raise that up. That pushes the water back. Do the same here. And then we'll just have to smooth it out. And so let's speed this up and see. It looks like the water is moving in a little bit. We might have to bring this back up again. I think this is the level we want to keep it at so that the water doesn't continue to creep in towards our roads. Unfortunately, it seems like the road back here is lower than the coast, so we're going to have to be cautious of that. That shouldn't create too many issues, but I think now we have the water level back to a reasonable point. We can continue to extend this 4-lane divided road. And we'll stop it somewhere here because we do have a bit of a hill to worry about. And we just reached Great Town. Plenty of more things unlocked. These will actually be kind of fun to play with, especially along the water, so good to have those unlocked. But we do have a bit of a hill here that we're going to eventually have to navigate. It's nothing too extreme, but maybe just evening the slope a little bit so it's not such a steep climb. So we can leave this end here. I think for planning purposes, there's nothing too much more to set up besides maybe building out our roads and street grid however we want them along here. And so what I'm thinking we could do is all of this area could be low density commercial, something like that, especially since it's right by a high school. I don't think this really needs any sort of medium density or high density buildings. And then maybe here right at this road, everything on this side following the water can be a bit higher density. Maybe it's residential, maybe it's more waterfront focused buildings. Because I think ideally we get this really focused on the water, so we'll have some docks coming out, some other water focused buildings placed along here, and we'll probably have to sculpt the edge of this just a little bit to get it to work for us. But I think the easiest way to go about this is to set up our commercial area. So we'll start setting that up. We can begin with our boundaries. So again, we wanted this road to act as a boundary on this side. I think this road here could actually be a good entry into the commercial area. So I'm thinking maybe this becomes another divided road. And then we don't really know how far we want this to come in. So we'll just snap it to 90 degrees. We can always come and fix that later. And then this can be a more of like a side street entry. It does connect directly onto this road, so I do think we should anticipate a little bit of use coming on this road. And right now, this is probably another reason we should get buses up as soon as we can, because this intersection is just very busy. Our Broad Street is very full. So once we get this built up, we can get some bus lines running in and through here, and that should help to alleviate some of those issues. And so what I'm thinking is we'll probably have to build this land out a little bit, but we can have some smaller commercial buildings between Elm Street and whatever street we build here. Or maybe this could be parking lots. I'm not sure exactly what we want at the moment. And then, or maybe this becomes parking closer to the water, and then this can become all commercial. We'll start to see what that looks like and play around a little bit as we begin building this out. So let's see, I want to see how many tiles we pulled this out. That will be helpful in determining how far back we should go. I think it's also important to determine if we want commercial facing Elm Street or not. I don't know if we want that necessarily. We do have it here on this side, and I think that's okay. We still have to see what kind of buildings pop up. But we have our main entry road. Let's maybe just draw a line and see what happens. We'll draw a road in each direction. That actually doesn't look too bad. I think we could... I think maybe instead of parking lots, we're going to focus more on parking roads, much like how we did here in the high school areas. I think these feel a little bit more like real parking lots that you would see. And so following this line of thinking for these shops might be the way to go. And so we'll continue to build this out. Again, we will make this connection. And then I think we could have some commercial facing Elm Street. Actually, I'm gonna flip back on that decision once again. I don't want Elm Street to feel too crowded, especially with the high school right here. So this will just be plantings, acting as a bit of a buffer. We'll have some smaller commercial buildings dotted here along this broad street, and then down here is where some of our larger buildings will be after we build out the riverside a little bit. So let's see if we have any commercial signature buildings. And it seems like a lot of these might actually be fit for placing in through here. So I think we might end up placing a lot of these. Yeah, a lot of these feel like what we would want in a shopping center more like this. We do have an arena, but I don't think this area is the place for it. We might save that for somewhere else later on. But let's start thinking about what buildings we want in here. We have the Riverside Grill. I think that's something you would see in a place like this. So let's get that in. We'll come in and tweak all these. I think we just want to get an idea of how much is coming through here. I think this espresso on the go would fit perfectly in a place like this. Maybe not this Canopy Cafe. Maybe not that building. This would be nice, but I think this could be something we do over here closer to the water, where we build out our docks. Looking... This might be a bit too tall for what we want. We do have this supermarket. This, I think, is part of one of the region packs. And I think this is the type of building we want to build out along the water here. So yeah, we'll save that for there. We do have some of the UK petrol stations, which might not be a bad look in this area if we can. I don't know if we can make this look good, but we'll leave it in here for now as an option. And then lastly, some of the other buildings here. Maybe we could get that in, and I think let's see if we can get this lounge. So let's see if we can work with what we have here. So I do like this espresso on the go right at the corner. I think maybe we move this in one tile. This will allow us to do a bit of landscaping, and maybe if we can find signs or something, a larger billboard or something right here at the corner that you would usually see at these shopping centers. So let's use find it, and maybe we could just search for this. So there are billboards. I don't think they're on posts. Yeah, so we might have to do a bit more searching for these. We have some signs, some street signs. That's not what we want. We do have like a gas station sign. That would be good to put over here if this doesn't already have one. I think we'll keep those in mind. Take a look at some of these other signs that are showing up. I don't think any of these are just quite tall enough for what we're looking for. More signs. I think these are just more the decals. So let's see what this is. Yeah, that's not. Maybe we want to look for something else, like a, we just search for pole. We can just find a flagpole or something else that we could maybe stick a billboard on top of. So we can do that. We do have some light poles, but I'm not sure if that's what we want to see. We do have plenty of billboard options once we find them. Yeah, all these are just the signs themselves. I don't think we want anything that's huge. Maybe if we can find something that's more like medium. So we don't really want these supports that are on the bottom of them. We kind of just want the sign itself. Unfortunately, we can't get the sort of like shopping center type of look that we would normally get. This also doesn't seem to want to rotate the direction that we want. Let's see if we can just get this on here. I think these are all large ones. Let's see if we can find a medium one. Still looking at large. Here's some medium ones. I think we could do that. It's nothing too crazy. I believe it's flat. Yeah, it looks like it's flat. We just would want to get it rotated on the pole how we want. However, that might not be the easiest thing to do. Let's see if move it will help us. Then we'll raise that as high as we can get it. And that'll just act as like a basic sign. We don't really have any sort of combined shopping center signs, but I think that'll do for what we want it to do. And so moving on, we'll extend this surface out to the sidewalk here. So this allows us to place a bunch of trees, whichever ones we feel like we want. And let's get some birch trees. We can get those spaced appropriately. Just like so. And so moving on, we have the next area to take a look at, or actually we have this surface that we need to finish up. So we can get that in there. Those are all trees that are part of the asset. We might come through and clean that up as we think about a final landscaping along Elm Street. But our next street is this pub and restaurant. This might be an okay one to push up against the other. I think maybe we give it space. It doesn't hurt to leave a little bit of space. I think maybe this road needs to change. I don't think you would see any sort of sidewalks in shopping centers like this. But you also maybe wouldn't see an alleyway. So maybe we need to change some of the road upgrades. I guess grass prevents people from parking on the side, which is what we want. We'll do that here on Elk Street. So maybe that helps this a little bit. I think that feels better. We can focus on trees afterwards. Now that this is all cleaned up, I think maybe between these buildings is where we can throw some of these parking lot roads. So like a parking alley, or this might even be wide enough for just a regular parking street. And so we could do that. Maybe we get more here, and then this just connects with an alley. Or maybe just a regular road. We might have to do something to clean up the sidewalks a bit. Let's see. Maybe we don't have to go all the way in one direction. So we can bring it up 4 tiles. We'll bring this up 4 tiles as well. And then transition. That almost seems a little bit better. Yeah, I think I'm starting to like how this looks. And then we can have maybe not one-way parking, but parking on one side. So we could throw this in here. Yeah, we'll throw this road in here. We'll come back through with Road Builder and adjust things slightly. But I think that's how we want this to look. And then we can keep this road back here as a sort of back of house road and some extra parking. So we have this espresso on the go. That's good. We have this pub and restaurant. I think this just maybe needs a nice grass surface underneath it. Hopefully this works the way I hope it does. I'm not sure if this will go under the asset or if it'll override all of the other surfaces. And that looks like that did exactly what we wanted it to. Then we can come through with a few trees. I think maybe some spruce trees along the backside. Seems like that white dot is where the trunk hits the ground. Let's mess around with this spacing a bit. Get those in. That now looks really nice. We can move on to our Horizon Lounge. And this one I think would be cool if we could get a street right along the backside here, but it seems like that's going to mess up a lot of our road connections. Maybe not if we get this just right. But I think what I really want this to do is we're going to have a bit of a T intersection here. We'll build this out 2 tiles, and then we'll also build out our 2-way road with parking on one side. I think we need to turn off these guideline snaps. They're just kind of getting in the way. We'll get this started right about there, I think. And then here is where we will merge the roads. Now, the tricky part is just doing this in a way so that these connect. We might just want to extend this even further so we give ourselves the space to properly work within. We'll just restart with this. And now we can get this to snap properly. Maybe we turn off all the guidelines and we just stick to 90-degree angles. think this could work. We do that and then connect the roads up, even though they appear to be slightly off. Let's fix this with a little bit of move it. Maybe smooth out the curve just a little bit. Hello, welcome to the live stream. We are playing through. We have a little bit going for us. Let me zoom out. We're focusing on the waterfront along here. We've built out all of this so far. Most recently, we've built out this high school area, and now we're focusing on a shopping center along the water, and then building out a bit more higher density, probably mid-rise buildings along this portion of the water. So right now we're just zoomed in on the shopping center, thinking about how this wants to look, and I think we're getting there. We do have a few more buildings to work through. So we have the lounge. I almost think that this gas station could just butt right up against this, since this is fenced off already. We have our gas station here. Then we can have another connection to the road back somewhere in this area. And so what we want to focus on is, I think this can stay at the corner, this Riverside Grill. We can have another segment of parking come off of here. So we'll do that. We might just want to bring this up a bit further. Hesitant to delete that because getting that connection again is going to be a bit tricky. Do we need a road behind the building? I think maybe we don't, and this just kind of connects together. So let's extend this just far enough to where we can get a better connection. And then we need to flip the way that this road faces. And maybe something like that. I almost wish we could square this corner off a bit more. Could be a parking lot back here. I think my only concern is getting a little too close to this Elm Street. I don't want to have sort of two sidewalks really close to each other. I think maybe this is about as close as we'd want to get. That's enough for some trees and landscaping to create a natural barrier. So maybe we might have to use Road Builder to build a narrower road, although we do have some options here. Maybe this could feel more like staff parking, almost. That still allows us to have a connection here. That almost feels a little bit more natural. At least we get a squared off corner. I don't know if, yeah, that wouldn't look good, just that one little segment. Let's see if there's a different type of road we could use. So if we just use a regular road, I don't think I really like how that looks either. And it looks like the sidewalks don't really like that as well. Let me try, I think turning off the grid might help. Now let me turn off some of the extra building stuff. I wonder if this is also maybe facing the wrong direction. I didn't want to upgrade that, but if we get this to face the opposite direction, and then we do maybe an alleyway. I think the issue is we're not getting... Let's try this. So that turns into a regular road right for the intersection. We could upgrade this and bring it this way. So this feels like it shouldn't be a prioritized movement since it's not in line with this road. And then we can find some parking that we can then just bring along the back side of the building. I feel like that does actually feel like it could work. So we'll stick with this. I think the last question we need to ask is if this road should connect to here. I don't think so, because that creates such a short section there. I almost want this to just be cut flat instead of having a rounded edge. But let's use move it and bring this a little bit back from the road. Does this even add a angle that's parallel with the building? Feels like it's slightly off, so we'll pull it in a bit more. I think that works out well. So we have a bit more tweaking we need to do in order to get these roads to work. I think we need to fix this intersection, or not this intersection, but this part of the road. And then some detailing, and this could turn out to be a really nice area of this shopping center. So again, welcome to the stream. If you are just joining, we are focusing along the waterfront here. Looks like we have a few things popping up, such as traffic, which we are planning to fix with some buses later on. Looks like we have some healthcare issues. Looks like some of these buildings spawn in that don't have the car access they need, so we'll just delete those quick. But things are going quite well here. Even though it says we don't have enough customers, I think we need to focus on getting some more people in our town. We just have too much commercial at the moment. But I did want to get this built because that's part of this. So let's focus on fixing this little bit of the road. And I wonder, yeah, we can't really do much there. We use move it. I don't think this looks that great either. I think we'll have to delete this. We'll do similarly to what we did here. And we'll just have to build just a little bit straight, and then we can curve our road once we're at this point. For some reason it didn't like that, so let's try again. Something's going on here that the game just doesn't like. So that fits. Let's see if we can now mess with the roads a bit to get this to work. We'll grab this node and shorten that up. And then from here we can soften the curve a little bit. Maybe also make sure that is straight and squared up. I don't think that looks quite that bad. I think we can keep that. Maybe we can squeeze this even closer together, just so we have as little dead space as possible here. We can do that. Smooth out the curve. And there we go. Now I'm really happy with how that came out. So let's finish by getting some surfaces in here so we get a nice manicured look for all of this area. We get that along here. Because this is a curved road, we'll have to do that. And then all this turns into nice grass area. This is a bit of an empty space, so I'm not too sure what we could do here. But I think we can focus on filling in this area. We'll get this filled out with grass. And this will just extend pretty much all of the areas remaining. So we'll make sure this stays inside of the sidewalk so that we get full coverage. I believe we can just bring this around now, and looks like we can connect up without any issue. Now landscaping is probably our next step. Really bring this together with some trees, some bushes, and then maybe we take a look at some road builder tools and make some adjustments there. So let's start going around. I think the first thing we can do is make these roads much skinnier by removing the parking, and then we can reduce the sidewalk width. We can bring that down to 13 feet maybe. And it seems like that's beginning to mess with some of our connections. So maybe we have to bring this back out. bit unfortunate we can't change this much more with Road Builder and have the sidewalks just connect. But I think that's okay. If we could do the same for these other streets, I think that would be good. This doesn't really change much besides just getting rid of the parking on these streets. I think it helps kind of close up some of what's missing. It also lines up the parking lots a little bit better. I think that's where we can leave that off. It looks like that changed a little bit of where our surfaces are at, so we need to make a few minor adjustments to make sure we're covered. I think we just need to get a bit more coverage here. There we go. We'll tighten up this area. So we did end up saving a little bit of space by making those roads just a hair narrower. We have this one. I believe that covers all of those. Now, as for trees and landscaping, I think we could probably start around here. And we do have a few options. I'm almost tempted to go with spruce trees along here, as those will provide a really nice barrier between the busy Elm Street and our shopping center, but we do want some visibility into here to sort of draw people in. So I'm wondering if maybe we go with oak trees and then we have more of a smaller bush along Elm Street as a barrier. And then we don't have to put these oak trees everywhere. But what we could do is just space them out maybe a bit farther. We could do something like 14 yards. And get those maybe right along where most of the people will be. We can do something similar here. Do that, and then lastly we would get them along this road. So another thing I wanted to do with Road Builder was edit this road, and we'll just use it as a template. We want to get rid of the trees. That gets rid of them there. I'm not sure why there's trees on the other side. Maybe that's an upgrade that's a little messed up. Let's maybe just change this so that we know what it is. And then let's see if maybe it's an upgrade thing that trees are on that side. So it looks like we can't change that. And it's not something we can adjust with Road Builder. I'm not really sure what's going on with the tree. We might just have to leave that alone. And that's just how they'll grow in. I guess we can remove these as they are technically sub-elements. I guess that works out in our favor. Then we also want some oak trees along the backside here. Thank you for tuning in, even if it was just for part of the stream. Be back for regular streams on Wednesday nights at 7:30. I think that's good for our trees. But moving on, I think now we want to get our bushes in. And the bushes we want to go with, maybe just these cultivated green bushes, nothing too crazy. I don't know if these, I guess these don't grow, so this will be the size that it stays at. So we will probably want this to go the full length until we get to here. And it looks like we lost our pole for our billboard sign, so we might have to place that back in. I think we just had to search for pole. And not sure which one it was. I think it was flagpole commercial. So let's get one of these in right about here, and then we'll use move it to adjust the sign once again. Get that lined up just where we want it, and then take it to the top of the pole. I think that's what we'll want for this. So I think there's a bit more we could do here. This feels like a bit of dead space. Same here, but I think we'll move on to some other areas first before coming back to this. And so now we're at the point where we want to start thinking about these bigger stores. We have this supermarket that we wanted to place. And as an asset, it does just go right along the road, but I think we want to do a bit more than just placing it along the road. We will place it to get an idea of what it looks like, because it does have a lot of, like, the parking lot. I think we want to factor this into our placement. I'm almost wondering if... No, that just doesn't seem right. So we'll want to find a location for this that feels natural, but still allows for this larger road to come through. I'm wondering if it is over here. We just move it over maybe one more tile. We can extend this road. We can get it to snap straight. Unfortunately, it doesn't really want to snap to what we want. Hello, welcome to the stream. We are building out a commercial area along the water. Currently struggling with whatever this is snapping along. There we go. We can get that built in. And then we'll need to think about how we can blend this to feel like it's attached to this parking lot. That might involve us removing some of this landscaping and maybe adding some road connections, so that it feels a bit more natural with the connections we have. It might not be a usable connection, but at least visually it'll look better. So this is what we have so far for our commercial area. Just trying to think of what else could potentially go in here. So we already have some people using our parking lot roads too, which is nice. I think it gives it a good bit of activity, which feels nice. I think maybe what we could do is influence this a bit with some pedestrian paths, especially here at our intersection at the high school. I think we can have some connections from these crosswalks to here, and that'll allow for much easier access. Although we do have the connection right here at Elk Street as well, but there might be some people that park in this parking lot that want to walk over and come in. But I think getting back to this area, I think we're going to decide to keep this here. And we'll keep this here. And so what that means, we're going to have to start to get a little bit weird about what we're doing. And hopefully it doesn't break things too much. But if we can get an alleyway road connection from here and kind of just clip it into this parking lot here, I think we could get something that feels realistic. And it won't be usable, however. And it looks like that did cut what it needed to in the asset in order to get this connection here. Although, I think using Move It just kind of broke that again. I wonder if there's an invisible road that we can use. Could use a small pedestrian street. That maybe doesn't feel like what we want. I think that is what we'll do. We'll do that. It looks good from a distance. I think maybe this difference in material could be blended a bit better, but if there's an invisible road or something else we could use, we do have some invisible car paths, which I don't know the first thing about how these connections work. But maybe if we bring this through here, we might actually see some activity. If that's how that works. And so then what that allows us to do is it creates a natural snapping point that we can begin to go off of here. And that just doesn't feel natural. We upgrade this in any way. I don't think we have a skinny enough two-lane road to get that connection to look decent. So we'll just continue to build this out, and that'll be an intersection. We'll come back to whatever this little end piece wants to be, unless we want this road to snap off this way and follow the water, which might not be the worst case. We'll come in through here, raise all of this, and then we can maybe get like a key road or something along here. Where's our 4-lane divided road? Feels like that's not needed at this point. I wonder if we can switch to a 2-lane road and get an intersection that still looks decent. I don't think that looks too bad. We can bring this out maybe one more tile, and then this is where we can add a key wall. I'm not sure if that's at the right angle that we want it to be at, so let's draw maybe another road just to make sure we are at our 90-degree angle, and then we can build our road this way. So now we can guarantee that we are at that 90-degree angle that we want to be at. Connect to that road. So now we get our key wall. We will continue to extend this. And then maybe this just comes all and connects all the way over here to the end of this street. We bring this out maybe to there. We can then do this, and then connect these together. You're saying use a small roundabout at the intersection? I'll give that a try. Let me just get this road connected. So what are you thinking? Here at this alleyway, or... Oh, you just mean... I see. A roundabout here. That looks like that might break some things. I don't think we're going to have this road. I think this is just going to slim down to a 2-lane road. If it couldn't maybe already be a 2-lane road, let's maybe try upgrading this if we can. Maybe this will allow us to get a roundabout in and not break too much. I think at this point, is a roundabout even needed for the parking lot? I don't really think it is. And we did see someone just use that, so that's good to see. We do need to Are you talking about here where Middle Street and Broad Street meet, or somewhere else? Seems like our street naming is getting a bit odd with all of these looping roads. Okay, not that Broad Street. The one above Crosswind Street. Are you thinking here at this intersection? With our Elm Street and Broad Street intersection? Yeah, this has traffic lights. All of our main intersections have traffic lights. I think we want to keep everything in the shopping center without traffic lights. I think usually what you'd see is a lot of this is low speed traffic. I think this could be okay remaining as a traffic light. I think we'll have to reevaluate that once everything's in here. But now I think we can fill this with slightly larger shops, more like grocery store type things. So let's remove these trees. And then maybe this is where we start plopping in some of the commercial buildings. We don't need to use signature buildings for all of this. We want to save some of these maybe for some other areas of the town. So I think we can just search and place some commercial buildings. I'm not sure what we could search. We might just have to scroll through and maybe just find something that looks good. We could maybe filter by some things, but I think we'll just scroll through. We do have some of these buildings which look kind of nice. Some of the EU waterfront commercial buildings. I think we'll keep scrolling through. Now we're in Japan buildings. Here's another supermarket. We could get another gas station somewhere, which wouldn't be too out of place to have multiple gas stations in a commercial shopping center like this. Could maybe even get it right along this street. We'll place it in just for now so we don't forget about it. That marketplace is way too big. These are all towers. These are some nice buildings, but maybe not quite what we're looking for here. These feel more like the size of stores that we'll want to go with. These commercial 4x6, 5x6. Let's just place these down so we don't forget about them. I think maybe we stick with these 5x5s so we don't get the integrated parking. We can search through for a few more buildings we can just build around. I think that's just more of the same. This feels different, so we'll maybe get one of those in. We're starting to collect a few buildings that could be useful for us. I think maybe we start to just place them over here so we don't have to rebuild them again. Then we also get some of these waterfront low-density buildings. I don't think these are quite as big as we want them to be. If there's a way to... I'm not sure if there's a way to sort by the size. Yeah, here we go. Lot width and lot depth. I think we want... Can we go... greater than 5? And greater than 5. So this should slim down our options a lot, so that we only get what we want. This is one that we would probably use. I want to maybe try not to use some of the specialty buildings, because those just don't... I don't want to have multiple of those specialty buildings all clustered in one area. We might duplicate them later on, but I think we have our collection of buildings. So now let's think about how we want to lay all of this out. Unfortunately, we didn't think about how we could just relocate these, so we'll just have to do it with move it. We'll just drag these over and hope that that doesn't cause too many issues. We should be able to click and just pick them up with this copying tool. We can click and then just place it wherever we want. So we just need to build out the layout. And again, I think this is all going to be laid out with parking lot roads, and then we'll just be placing the buildings. Trying to think about where we want the back of the buildings to face. If we want the back of the buildings to face this road, or if we want the back of the buildings facing the water, or maybe we do a split type of thing where the backs of the buildings face a road that comes through here. So we can... And an alleyway just almost doesn't feel right. I think maybe this will be the central area where we have our parking lot roads come off of, and the backs of the buildings will face the sides. So we're gonna have the back of a building facing this grocery store, but I think that's okay. If we leave 2 or 3 tiles behind the building here, we can mask it with a bit of landscaping. But this road feels like a good central point for us to break off of. So this will split right through here. And then from this point on, we can just build parking lot roads. Hopefully we can get 3 of these in here. Yeah, so this is going to be a little bit hard to get these spaced out appropriately. I believe this is the center. We definitely want this road down the middle. And then this is going to cause some issues, so we're not going to do that. We might have to remove some of these. And then if we can align it right between those 2 cells and then pull it forward. And then we get 1 more here. Yeah, there's 3 broad streets. I think it's because this street is just looping around. I think this street used to be Elk Street or something else, but because it's all connected, it's now just one big looping road. So I'm not sure if we can split this That might just be something we come back to later and fix. But I think what we can do is connect these up with a road. And we are so close to being able to just do this. I wonder if we delete that, if we can somehow get this to connect properly. Yeah, there we go. So now we have a nice natural road that comes through here. This is where our commercial buildings can be. It's a nice straight road. So if we think about which one of these we want to bring in, I think we could put one there, and then maybe we could grab another. Maybe we could grab this. And we can see how that looks. I think that actually looks fine. We have the fence along the road here. This can be trees. I don't think that looks too bad. I mean, maybe we flip the location of these. A road at the end. Yeah, I'm just leaving this as empty space right now. We're going to come back to it. This is just my collection of buildings to copy. But I think, yeah, we'll delete these and we'll replace them. We wanted this right here. And then, I forget which one we had. I think it was this building. This one going in right here. So that feels a little bit better. Yeah, I think that feels a little bit better. We have this building here, this building. I'm not sure what this is supposed to be, especially with this pool, big pool-in section. I don't know if that's parking or not. I guess it looks like it's on a bit of a hill, but maybe that's just... No, there's definitely a bit of a hill. Let's see if we can use move it and bring these all to the same height. That brought those all. Add decorations and trees between the complex we built. Yeah, we're gonna come through and add some extra details in a bit. I just want to get the layout and the buildings in, because that's usually what dictates a space like this. Then we're just gonna get all of these matched to the same height, and hopefully that doesn't create any weird connections. I think this all still looks good. How long do I plan to live stream? I think we're gonna maybe go for another 40 minutes. We'll get to 3 p.m. my time and maybe see where we're at. I think I'd like to have this area wrapped up in this stream. That'd be a nice ending point. I feel like we wanted to get all of this area too, but I think giving this area the attention it deserves, maybe we mainly just focus on this section for now. So we have this all in. Let's maybe build out these parking lots now. Now here we don't have a road that we can have act as like a natural point of connection. So I think we just go right here before it starts to curve. And it looks like we're getting 2 different 90-degree snaps. So usually when that happens, I like to just snap it to 90 degrees and then do that. And now we should be able to come back and build through with these parking lot roads. Not quite sure why that happened. Hopefully that's not going to be an issue. That connects. And then this connects. And then lastly, getting this one in. Now we have to choose a few more buildings to go in here. I think I liked this building. So if we can get this placed right about there. I think that's good. It even has a little bit of access off of this road. Even though it might not be the nicest thing to look at. And I think we're going to have to find a smaller building to go into this space. So we're going to have to search through. And let's look for equals 4x4. See what we can kind of find. So it looks like 4x4 would be the size that we want to fit here. We just now need to kind of find something that we like. I think we could go with this building. We can do a bunch of stuff with the surfaces that it has and round out this corner here. We could maybe even move it and give this building a bit of space. I'm not sure if these buildings are actually functional or not. Seems like this one's functional. It's making money. This one doesn't have anything. I think what it needs is a commercial entity to move in before it actually starts doing anything, because right now it says none. It's available for rent. But it looks like this one had someone move in, and so the colors changed. We have the sign here. It looks like we had something move into here as well. So yeah, so I think this is doing well. And if we can get one more thing here, I think that would be ideal. This could then become an alleyway for some back of house services, dumpsters, maybe some other things. And then that can just connect straight through. I think maybe this could be another gas station. Let's see what size we could fit in here. So I think we could go for a 5 width. Or maybe even a 5x5. Yeah, I think a 5x5 would be what we want to fit here. Let's see if there's a gas station that fits that size. So I'm not seeing much of anything that could fit here. Let's maybe turn off our filters and just search. I guess it's all commercial. We can't really search by keywords or anything. Seems like this is still on. So we do see some other buildings. Oh, you know what? Maybe this could be cool to put in here. This public market square. We could turn this into a big sort of open seating space. Yeah, I think let's do that. So that we'll put in right there. And then maybe this gets upgraded a tiny bit. What would this look like if it was an alleyway with parking? We could even make this just a one-way alley. That's a road. We want to look for... Maybe an alleyway is not the way to go. We could do a street, although it seems like... I guess that doesn't look as bad. So we'll do that. Alright, so I think this is the overall layout that we're going to have here. We can clean up some of these. And we did have this gas station here we could have copied this whole time, but I like what we're going to do with this instead. And so we can drag this surface out. I think this might be a lot of space, but we could really make this into something interesting. It won't be functional by the game standards, but I think we could make this something that looks really nice. So if we... Can we turn this to all and all? And then we can look for things that are more like park bench types of things, or like stalls. And then this almost feels like a market space. Yeah, if we get like this stall and we just start placing out rows of these, this could be something interesting we could do. I guess food stall random doesn't really do what we were thinking it would do, so we might have to just come through and place all these ourselves. But we can get that in, and then we're just pretty much going to keep going through and doing the rest of the stalls around here. So hopefully what ends up happening is we get a really cool effect that this feels like just an open market space that you could naturally run into. Throw in some more of these. I wonder if there are food carts. Maybe we get one or two of these placed around here. Yeah, so I think we leave that off there, and then we can find it. I know there's, yeah, these park table sets. I think it's only these two, but we can kind of just place these around. So you get like a nice little park space right in the middle of our shopping area. We'll come through and make the colors a little bit less saturated. Maybe these become like a darker red. And then we'll paste these onto all of these. And then I'm not sure if this is going to work as intended or not, but we do have these invisible paths. So if we grab like an invisible pedestrian path, I'm not sure. We did it similarly to the parking space over here, but I think it'd be really nice if we could place like an invisible pedestrian path and have it run through here, and we could see people actually using this space. I'd really like it for it to attach here, but I'm not sure if it'll connect to this asset or not, or how close we have to be for it to do that. But we'll build this anyway. So that'll build there. And we can build it through like so. And here this will go through and connect like that. And so we might, in the off chance if we get lucky that that works, see some movement through here. And then over here this could be more of a park space. So we do that, and then we place a few trees. Maybe we get a nice oak tree there. Maybe we get some bushes along the road here. And then a pathway would be nice, but I think maybe we could find a really tiny playground or something to go here. Yeah, I think we could do that. And then we'll just move the tree. And planters, that's a good idea, especially with seating near a road. We definitely, not sure if there's planters we can search. There are some planted pots, or yeah, some plant pots. We do have these. So yeah, let's build this out a little bit with some planters. We'll get the corner. We can build out that way. I want to build this way a little bit. We'll do a planter there. There and here. Then we'll leave a little space for people to come through and continue with planters along this way. I think we have a path coming there, so we can leave that how it is. Population's going down a lot. I'm wondering if it's some death stuff. It could be traffic and ambulance related. We do have troubles with traffic. Let's clean up some of this. I don't see anything too concerning going on. It is going down. I wonder if something happened. We have plenty of clinics. I think our biggest issue is traffic, which isn't allowing things to get around. So let's finish up this, and then I think we'll get buses in, and that will wrap up pretty much everything I was hoping to do in the stream. I'll get back to finishing this, and then we'll go through and add some public transportation. But back to these planters. We could probably use the line tool for this if we can. I guess we're not getting the right distance, so we'll have to come through and place these individually. We'll get a few planters along here. We'll get one more. And then what we can do is, just for some general pedestrian safety, just get a large planter here. And then if we could, maybe get one more right about here, but I'm not the biggest fan of how that looks. Maybe we just do planted some just pots, like some circular, yeah, some of these. We can get a few of these dotted around. And we do have some people using this, it looks like. I think we want to get rid of these two planters because we have a pedestrian access through here. So I think that's that area done. We have this area that we can clean up, but I think we want to focus on public transportation first. So let's get a bus network set up. We'll probably get two lines, maybe one that runs down Elm Street and then one that acts as maybe just a more of a general collection line through some of our main streets. So I think first we need to place a bus depot. And we've just been throwing everything into this industrial area. I don't really like that I'm doing that, but we don't really have the space at the moment to plan these things out. So this is a temporary location for the bus depot. But what we can do then is focus on moving people around. And we'll just use regular bus stop. And we'll get these located at some of our busier intersections around. I think we'll get one here and one here right near our main entry. And then I think I'm okay with this being more of a line instead of a loop. I'm wondering if maybe what we do, I guess the bus can come in the high school area and turn around. I think we'll keep that for this line at the moment. I guess we used integrated bus stops instead of regular bus stops, but I think that's okay. We do have the bus line tool. We will build this out. So this isn't really intended to be anything too big. I don't think we have enough, like, sprawl for Metro to be much of an option right now. I think if we expand it out this way, we could eventually get a subway line under Elm Street. I do feel like we are still a little small for Metro though. But we'll go around and get a few more bus stops. I think we want some that collect near these, all of these low density residential areas. So maybe we get one, we'll get one right across from the elementary school. We can also get one that goes really close to the high school. And I think that can then come south and use this stop, where then we can have it go back up north and use these stops as well. Yeah, we'll have it come over here, it'll use that stop. Although we don't get anything through the middle of this area. We have a stop here, a stop here. I do want a bus that goes through this area somewhere. Maybe it turns up this street and it can come by these parks, come right by our low rent buildings. It can then come across this road. I think these are close enough to be a connection, or maybe we just delete this one. And then here we can turn north. From here, this gets to our office areas. So we can have a stop here. And then this allows us to begin coming through our low density area. And so I think this is going to be a loop, so we'll get 2 lines, one in each direction. So this should be good enough for a start. It's nowhere near as large or expansive as we would want it to be. But this should help reduce our traffic a little bit. Enough so that we're not having issues with our other services. So we have all of our main connections covered. We have connections to the high school, connections to our downtown, and a stop at our commercial area. I think maybe the only thing we'd want to do is check on these lines, and I like to reduce the ticket price to incentivize people to use it even more. And then we can up the vehicles maybe to 6. Because if we look at how many people are waiting, we have a lot of people waiting at these stops. And this is our line that goes from here to our commercial area and our high school. So I feel like this one might get a good amount of use. We might even go up to 7 buses. And then for our other lines, which are our loop lines, we can lower these to 6, and I think we'll just get 5 buses in each direction for those. I don't anticipate too much use coming out of those lines. We'll bring this up to 5 as well and lower the ticket price. And just so we can see them a little bit differently, we can change the colors as well. Now when we zoom in, we can tell which line is which. We're already getting a good amount of people already taking our buses. We'll have to let that sit and update. But coming back to here, adding some last few details. City tour, there's not too much, but here is our low density area. A lot of our suburban homes. We have a bit of an industrial area next to the highway, some farms. One of our elementary schools, which is currently overflowing with people. We are struggling to keep up with some of our education. Next to our low density residential, we have our main, or not our main strip, but like a sort of old town business area. So this is mixed use commercial along here with some street parking. And then next to that is our high school, which is our only high school on the map at the moment. We spent most of last stream doing the details here, so adding these parking lots, the sports fields, and some of the other minor things. And then we get into a bit more denser area where we get sort of side-by-side housing, row housing, and then as we work towards the water, some more medium density and mixed-use buildings. Bayview Street, which is our main entry into town at the moment, which is what connects to our highway, has all of our commercial and larger residential. And then I'm thinking the west side of that, or I guess west in relative direction, this would be largely row home housing, slightly more dense than what we have over here. And then we just have our afterthought industrial area, which we need to take a look at. That might be next stream we take a look at this. But that's just where all of our extra industrial goes. Any city services that we don't have a spot for kind of gets thrown in here for now. But that is the very quick, brief city tour. But again, if you're just joining us, we've been spending most of our time on this area here, this waterfront commercial space, which I think is coming out really nice. I think we're focusing on finishing up some of the details. We'll somehow close this off over here, and then farther on, eventually this will be higher density waterfront amenities. I don't know if that'll be commercial or buildings, or if it'll be more like marina and dock type buildings. But our main focus has been in here, where we're going to continue to work. And I think that's going to continue with maybe expanding some of this asphalt surface. I think we can just get this to fill in this space. That can come through. And then we wanted to expand this surface to make it feel like it's more connected to the surrounding area. I think we can drag this out. And yeah, we can do this. We can put some planters right along the edge here. Do a bit of landscaping with some bushes. And then we can find those park benches again. I think they're in here. There are some other table sets we could use to place in this area, but I think we'll go back to... Actually, let's put a fountain here. If we can... Okay, maybe we don't put a fountain here. These all seem way too big. But we do have these benches. Maybe they'll just be benches. This will sort of be like a nice park space. Maybe this is just like a plaza where kids can hang out. And we'll make this like some neutral color that we can copy. That we maybe want to be a bit of a wood look. And then we can copy. And we'll just keep pasting it through. So we're not going to do anything with invisible paths like we did over here. But I think that's enough space that it feels like it will be active. Along here, let's get some spruce trees. Just to help mask the ugly side of the building. So those should grow in to cover that a little bit. We do have this, but I'm going to keep it because it does kind of front this back side street. So this isn't really meant to be seen by much of the public anyway. So I think we can keep that there. And then what we want to do is focus on these parking areas. Get some trees in here. We'll cover all of these medians with a surface, so we get a nice consistent grass color. And then we can throw some trees in here. And I think, what trees do we have? I think we'll go back to birch trees. Those always work out nice. Seems like this spacing will work out just fine. And then we just have to copy this through all of these medians. And we have just a few more. And then the last ones go in there. And those should start to grow in and be a nice size. I think some of these trees have started to grow already. Some of these spruce trees and oak trees. And we can kind of already start to see what this looks like once some of these plantings start to come in. So continuing on, can we add trees to this quay, or this quay wall? We can add trees to the opposite side. Can we add grass? I think we'll do grass and trees along this side of all of these roads. Hopefully that doesn't delete anything that we worked on previously. I don't think it will. We'll just throw in grass here as well, just to keep no parking. But then we'll throw trees along the inner side of the roads. So those should grow in nicely then. Then we have this space behind this building. This has an access road, so I think this could be closed off with bushes and other things. So let's see here. Flower bush, probably not. Maybe we just get some more like wild bushes back here. We can get these a bit tighter. Do something like that with bushes. Maybe we bring out some spruce trees once again. And those will go here. And then we can front this with some flower bushes. Maybe one more tick closer. Just like that. That should grow in nice and dense once they grow up. So we can already see this area starting to come alive with people. Plenty of people are walking through here. Some of the parking is getting used. I think now let's focus on some of the plantings in here. I'm thinking a nice oak tree right in the middle of this space. And then usually, I think we'd want to close this off with bushes all the way around. I think in these types of commercial spaces, you wouldn't want to see a lot of people just using the grass. I think this is going to be pretty tightly packed row of bushes. And we'll just get this following along the sidewalks. We could try some of these more complex curves. We can do something like that. And then a few more bushes, and this should be all closed up, just like so. Unfortunately, we got our spacing a little messed up here. I think we can just fix that by rounding the corner. So now we have those bushes sort of sectioning off that space. This space could be just open grass. I guess there's nothing really wrong with that. And again, we come back to this space, which I really don't know what we could do here. Maybe it's a park. Maybe we find some kind of park that fits here. Ideally, if it's like a 3x3 park or something similar. It doesn't seem like we have a park that's that size. We do have an activity playground, but that feels a little bright for the area. Maybe try putting this in, and then we can close it off with some trees, separate it from this gas station. You probably wouldn't want a park right next to a gas station, so we'll section this off with some bushes. I think we can get that to look really good if we just line them up like so. And then maybe we do a line of birch trees. And then could we do some wild bushes? I don't know if that's really what we want to do, so maybe we do that, and then maybe this is just a pedestrian path. I don't think there's anything wrong with this just being a cut-through path. We can do that. We get a crosswalk, which we don't want. Downgrade that. Although that messes up our parking. I think we're going to have to redo that in a way that doesn't build a crosswalk. There we go. That feels a little bit better. We can remove the crosswalk here. And then we'll have to play with the surfaces to get it to not join to the sidewalk there. It seems like we can just pull this back a tiny bit. Even though I kind of want to get that closer. Let's see if we can just ever so slightly move this until it detaches. There we go. And that still feels reasonable. And then can we place a park on... I'm wondering if we can place a park next to this parking lot. And it seems like we can. So is there something small we could use here? I think let's turn off snapping. And we want to get this lined up just perfectly with the road. We'll delete this tree. And then once again, fix our surfaces. We'll turn our snapping back on just so that makes a bit more sense, but now I think that whole area has now come together. We build that empty space with some parks. That'll help drive some more people to come in here. And we can take a look quick and see how we're doing overall. I think the next thing we want to add is a pedestrian connection from Elm Street. So we had this here, which we said earlier we wanted to have this connection. So we'll clear out a few of the bushes. And then we can get a small pedestrian path. Ideally, it doesn't mess up anything. We can get that pedestrian path in there. We should start to see people using that. We use Move It to clean up this one spot. So we can get this a little bit closer. And we get a bit more of a natural connection there. Already people are starting to use that. And so I think that's this area done. If there's anything that you guys see that could use some touch-ups or some slight changes, let me know. But I think this segment came out really well. Especially this main area with the parking lot roads and just regular commercial buildings. I think that came out a little bit better than I expected it to. So welcome everyone to the stream. We are building out some commercial spaces. We have a little bit more to go. I think we maybe want to do a few things here, and then maybe on the other side of this supermarket we can start to do some more transitionary types of building. I'm not sure what that would look like, but I don't think this wants to be commercial all the way to Eastgate Street. I think somewhere in here we draw a line, and maybe this switches to... I guess industry is not really a good move to go here because of the wind direction. But maybe it switches to some type of housing, or maybe this could be where our bus depot goes, and this can be more of a services area as opposed to commercial. But I think we do have to draw that line somewhere, and that's probably going to be here. We'll mark it out with a road. For some reason it wants to follow the supermarket. spacing. We don't want it to do. But I think we're gonna have to turn everything off. Just turn on our 90 snaps. And so this can define where we want our edge to be. And we do have this space here coming into the supermarket. I think we can just reinforce this with some more plantings. Maybe a sign. I don't know if we have any type of sign that would sort of naturally fit here. We do have some of these smaller signs. These are definitely not what we want. We have some billboards, but that's also not what we want. And none of these come with poles. So I think we're just gonna have to do what we did here at our main entry. We'll just find a like flagpole or utility pole and then just put a sign on it, and we'll just have to roll with that. So let's look for a pole. I think it was flagpole commercial 2. That's the really tall one. This is inside the shopping center though, so I think maybe just flagpole 1 might be what we want. We can get that placed right about here. There's a bit of a hill, but I think that should be okay. We can then look for these signs and find one that kind of fits. I don't think we're gonna find... Yeah, like this is a nice sign that could go here. We also have like a generic pharmacy sign. That's not a bad option as well. I think let's go with this one. Seems like that's a bookstore sign, but that should fit just fine in this area. Try to get that right on the pole. I think that's about as high as we want it to be as well. Doesn't have to be anything too crazy. We take a look at it from ground level. That definitely sticks up. And then we get back to our plantings. So some more, I think maybe we do some wildflowers along here. And then we could do some poplar trees right along the edge. And I think that's fine. I don't think this has to be anything that is super lush or filled in. We can just kind of do this, and that should be fine. I think we'll do the same thing over here. So we were doing poplar trees along that edge, and then just doing these bushes all the way out to there. So we'll have to think about what we do along the coastline here, but I think that's a problem for another time. If we want this to just be the quay wall, which I think I'm fine with, but we do have to think about what that looks like here along the supermarket. Maybe this starts to slope out a little bit and it's just more like rocks and bushes. I don't think we're going to focus on that too much at the moment. I think what we want to do is get back to seeing what we can do with this space. We do have some of this commercial zoning beginning to fill in. I'm not sure how much of a fan I am of this, especially with the back end butting up against the high school. But that's another issue for a different time. So we'll keep this gas station. I like where it is. I'm wondering if this could be maybe one tile closer. I think this is one that we just sort of copied and brought in. So we can just move that over, delete that, and then we could do this again. Although it doesn't seem to be snapping to the tile I thought it was going to be. I think because this street is differently aligned from this street. So I think we'll just place that there, and then we'll work with whatever we have left. So we'll want to think about, again, some of these smaller commercial buildings we could throw in. These were all specialty buildings. I think maybe we can do what we did here and search for some smaller commercial buildings and use that to fill in this space. I think maybe we could also define the space a bit better before we get into this. So let's get our parking lot street off of that road. And then we will bring this over. Not sure if that's the 90-degree angle that we wanted. Not sure what this is snapping to. I think it's snapping to some roads on the other side of that. But we don't want that. We want this to come straight across like so. And then we want this connection to get made. So what does this look like if we upgrade that to look like that, and then we grab this I guess neither of these look amazing, but maybe if we flip the direction, that still doesn't look great. Well, let's take this back to regular 2-lane road, and we can sort of create some new nodes if we just do this, and then I'm not sure where we want this one to be, but we do something like that. Then we can upgrade just this middle portion. That gets us something that's maybe a little bit more normal. We can upgrade that to just fix things a little bit. And then maybe we use move it. We don't want to do that. I guess we can't. Move it's maybe not the right tool to use, but we can keep this. I think that's okay. We'll remove the trees that are here. And then this can be filled with maybe 2 commercial buildings. Yeah, we could probably fit 2 commercial buildings in here, and that would be a good enough for this space. So we can come through and filter again, and it looks like this is 5 tiles deep, and maybe we go 5 or 6 tiles wide. I do like this building, but I don't like that the parking lot is attached to it. Let's maybe put that there and see what comes out of it. We also have this one here that has parking lot integrated into it as well. Do these look... Yeah, I'm not sure if I like... Yeah, I don't know if I really like how these look. I think I'm okay with this building here. This feels nice and sort of tidy within its lot, but I think whatever we put here needs to be maybe a little bit different. Maybe we start looking at a lot depth of 4. And here, again, the issue is these have parking lots of their own. What's nice about this is this actually blocks off that parking lot. But I don't think that fits the look of all of this space. We do have this commercial motel. I don't know if you would see a motel in a shopping center like this. I don't think you would. Unfortunately, I don't think any of these buildings are going to work too well either. Some of these EU buildings actually might not be awful. Something like this might not be that bad. This isn't terrible, and it actually kind of lines up with the building next to it. Let's see what that looks like. I don't like that it has that sort of integrated walkway. Can we remove that? I guess we'd actually... We would move this. If we can. We would grab this, bring it back to here, and then this would fill out. The issue is can we change the shade of the asphalt? I don't think we can. Yeah, that's what we would really want to change here, so that these match. So yeah, we're gonna get rid of this building. We'll try again with a different building. I wonder if an alleyway... If we do something like this, if that matches the color, that does match the color. It's not great. I'm not a huge fan of it doing this, but that does feel a bit better with the parking lot there. And then we just have to find something that fits into this space. So we do have buildings like this, where it has parking on the front, which might not be the worst thing. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, can we go 2x4 and get the same things? Yeah, we can get a 5x2 actually, and I think this gets us something that looks like this, maybe? Let's see what some of the other ones looked like. Yeah, actually, I think we want to go with that building. So if we do that, and then this. There we go. That feels like something you would see in a space like this. So this has a bunch of smaller shops in it that front the street. Even on the backside here, we have some parking for these few buildings. And then, really what this could be is just an alleyway. And I don't think it doesn't have to connect to that parking. So we'll turn off snapping to the zone so we can get that as close as we can, but we still don't connect. I think that rounds out this commercial space really nicely. And so it looks like a lot of our traffic has gone away with the addition of our buses. This street does seem a little bit busy coming into our main area, but I still think this needs looked at. This roundabout coming into our highway, especially because this highway still doesn't have direct access to this highway without coming through our town. So that is certainly something we want to take a look at sooner rather than later before we get too big and we're sort of stuck with whatever we restrain ourselves to. I think this intersection is okay still, even though it's not as straight on as I wanted it to be. The terrain was just being a pain to work with. But that is our other entry into the city. I think this is going well. We have still some more demand for ambulances. Let's see if our services... We're operating at 90%. We could bring that up to 100% and maybe see if that changes things. Because we do have, I believe we have 3. Yeah, we have one here, and one over here. This is a medical clinic, but it does have ambulances. And we can build an extension wing, but I don't think we need that. We have a medical clinic. This one has 2 ambulances. And then another small medical clinic that only has 3. So maybe we do need a larger medical facility, and that could probably go in here. I think this will end up being more of a services area to act as a transition between low density commercial and high density waterfront. But overall, I'm really happy with the progress that we've made here. And so if you stuck around this long in the live stream, thank you for being here. I think we're pretty much wrapping this up. This seems to be a good stopping point. But if you want to see more of these streams, I do stream regularly on Wednesday nights at 7:30 p.m. And then occasionally, like today, we'll throw up a stream on a weekend. So keep an eye out for those if you're interested as well. But thank you all for being here and chatting while you had the chance. But that's going to be all for this live stream. So if you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. And with that, have a great day.